there, friends and sane persons. Welcome back to another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. My name is Kyle, and Wednesday Whimsy is a short show that I do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game, a top 10, a board game topic, or recently, a series of top 20s making up my top 100 games of all time. We are finished with that. If you did not see the final episode, we did it on the weekend, the Würfelcast show, so you can go and check that one out. It's on the same channel. You just might have to look somewhere different because it's not going to be under Wednesday Whimsy. But it was a fun discussion. As I was going through my top 100, there were a few surprises. A few new games kind of showed up on the list. Revive was one. That's one I've talked about a lot. Another Arc Nova, new to the list, although not a very good, it's a great game, but not a new game. But Nucleum was one game that showed up high on the list, and I knew it would. But the surprise for me was a game called Sky Team. Now, Sky Team is the game we're going to be talking about today, so I'm just going to jump right in so that we don't go too long on this one. Let me start by telling you what it's about. So in Sky Team, the box itself promises that it is going to be an immersive, high-drama, two-player cooperative game. That's kind of a tall promise, but, well, the two-player cooperative, that's easy. It is a two-player cooperative game. In this game, one player is going to play the pilot of a large airliner, and the other player is going to be the co-pilot. So you're kind of, imagining that you're sitting in the cockpit. And your goal is to complete certain procedures so that you can successfully land the plane. In pretty much all of the scenarios, that includes deploying the landing gear. It includes progressing the plane all the way to the airport. It includes opening the flaps, getting the brakes ready, and ultimately, landing in a manner so that the plane is level. You wouldn't want to land like that because that would be bad. If you successfully complete these procedures, you win. If you fail to complete these procedures, you lose. And you can lose at various points during the game. It does not always go to the end. Sometimes you'll lose in the first round. But that's really what the game is about, is you're working together trying to complete all these procedures. Now, of course, the catch is that you're not allowed to talk to each other because just like on a real plane, I'm sure the pilot and co-pilot who are sitting right next to each other never discuss what they're doing and never say, hey, it looks like there's a red light flashing over there. You better check it out. I'm sure they would not do that. Well, clearly that's obvious. That's just for a gameplay gimmick, but it really works. It's kind of the core part of the game. If you could just say what you're going to do, well, I've got a 6 over here. That does cut some of the tension. So let's talk quickly about how the game works. And let me pull up the screen here. I have a picture all set up because I'm prepared like that of kind of the game in flight. So this is the board, and on it sort of represents what you are and what the pilot and the co-pilot are doing. That's the orange and blue. These dice are a little different than mine, but that doesn't matter. My dice have numbers on them, not pips. Ultimately, over here, what we have is over here we have the progress. This is our altitude. This track is going to go down by 1 every round, and when it gets to this one with the plane landing, that's the final round of the game. You have to complete the landing procedure by the end of that round. This is clearly a prototype, but that's all right. This over here, this is the flight path. So you have to move this up yourself and reach the end. You don't want to go too far, and you don't want to go not far enough, and you have to clear out all of these planes that are in the way by radioing ahead to the air traffic controllers. And on your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to take 4 dice of your color, and you have a screen, and you're going to roll those dice behind the screen. You can talk briefly about what your plans are for the round before you roll those dice, but once you roll them, you got to kind of shut up unless it's a rules clarification. And then on your turn, you're going to place 1 die. The dice can be placed based on their value. For example, you'll see this spot here can take a 1 or a 2. And they have to be placed on a spot of their matching color. So any die could go on these spots at the bottom, whereas only orange dice can go on this side and only blue dice can go on this side. The blue dice are the pilots, the orange dice are the co-pilots. And then as you do these, so when you place the dice, certain things are going to happen. If you place the dice up here, it's going to clear a plane off of the flight path that number of spaces ahead of where you are. When you put you always have to put a die in your axis and in your speed. And so you really only have 2 dice that you have discretion over, but you can decide which one it's going to be. When you put it in the axis, as soon as the other player puts theirs in the axis, you're going to see the difference between the two, and you're going to turn this little dial toward the higher number, that many notches. So that's going to sort of affect the way the plane is leaning. If you go too far, then you just lose. You're going to crash and die. This over here is the speed. And so you're going to add up these numbers, and you're going to look at this chart here and see where you fall with relation to, well, on this picture, this blue cube and this yellow cube. In the actual final game, there are these little wooden notch tokens, and they're blue and orange, doesn't matter. If you fall on the left of the blue cube or blue token, you're going to go 0 spaces, so you'll stay where you are. If you fall in between them, you go 1 space forward, and if you go on the right of the higher one, this orange notch, it's yellow on the picture though, you're going to go 2 spaces forward. If there's something in your way, you crash and you lose. So a good portion of the game is kind of figuring out what die to put there. Now, down here at the bottom, there's this thing that lets you get the cup of coffee, and anyone can use that to increase or decrease the die value by 1. There's also these switches over here. When you put your die on them, it's going to increase the switch. It's a requirement for winning the game, but it's also going to increase the position of the appropriately colored token, so that it'll make it more difficult to go faster as these things get open more and more. And that's really it. I mean, that's sort of the core part of the game. Is you're going to be working together. You roll 4 dice. When all 4 dice are placed, the round ends and you advance this. There are some other things. There's some special abilities that you can get in the game, and there are reroll tokens that can be used. But at the end of a certain number of rounds, if you succeed, if you fulfill all of the victory conditions, you win the game. Otherwise, you don't. It seems pretty simple, right, when I describe it like that, but the game is just a delightful puzzle. And in addition to sort of the core game that I described, there are, as you can kind of see in this picture, a variety of other potential landing. There's another landing strip on the other, altitude strip on the other side of this one. But there's a bunch of different airports that you can visit, and they're going to have longer tracks, shorter tracks. They'll have more planes, fewer planes. Some of them will have these turns. And so the way that's worked is when you move into certain spaces, your plane has to be tilted in a certain orientation, or else you lose. And so it's not just keeping the plane level, it's keeping it facing the right direction. There's a wind module, and depending on which way you're facing or turning, it will increase or decrease the wind speed, and the wind adds to or subtracts from your overall speed, meaning you might go faster than expected or slower than expected. And so managing the wind is important. There is ice, and so you have this ice brake that's a little bit different, because there's this brake action here that in the ice brake you have to work together to sort of make these stronger brakes in case the ground is icy. There's an intern, which is a kind of a stupid rule, but it's fun. It's going to be this intern that for some reason you're training while you're landing the plane, and you have to put a die there, and then you get to take, instead of the action value of your die, you take the first token over here and use that value instead. And it can be both a boon and a negative thing, or a bane, there we go, depending on what the value is. And you have to make sure that you do that before you clear that off before the end of the game. So there's a variety of different scenarios. It's going to use different combinations. There's a fuel management system. It sounds like a lot of rules, but you're only using a couple. Other than that kind of core set, you're only using a few of those bits and pieces each game. That's how it works. So what makes it special? Well, first of all, this game, the number one most special thing about this game is its length. And I know that seems kind of like a silly thing, but this game, I mean, the box says 20 minutes. I've never played a game of this that's lasted 20 minutes. I mean, you can lose it in two, but even if you make it all the way to the end, and even if people are a little bit dithery, I mean, 10 minutes is about where you are. This is just, I mean, you can have this box, take it from your shelf, put it on the table, get it set up, play it, and put it back on the shelf in 15 minutes. And, shelf to shelf in 15 is something few good games do well. And that makes it just really the perfect game that, at the end of your evening, you can say, I want to play something, but I don't want to set something up. I don't want to do something heavy, something long. How about Sky Team? And you can play around a Sky Team or even two in the time it would take to play some other game. And I think that's delightful. Another thing that's great about this is its rules are so simple. I mean, yes, there's a lot of different modules to mix in, but you're only ever focusing on really one or two at a time, plus sort of the core system. And the core system is dead simple. It's roll these dice secretly, place them, and have your placement of the dice be your only communication. If I put a 6 here, maybe this means I only have big dice. Or maybe it means I really want to make sure we go faster this round. And then you're supposed to interpret that. And we're working together with all kinds of non-audible communication, and it can be really fascinating. I find it is amazing if you play with the same person a lot of times. You'll get a rhythm. You'll sort of learn to read each other. You'll learn what this means, even without speaking. Right? You could establish a code, but you're not supposed to. That's out of the spirit of the game. But as you play with people, you're going to learn sort of how they think, and that can be really very fascinating. But it's even more fascinating if you play this game with a total stranger and yet you manage to sync up mentally. And you're just working together at the very best possible pace, and it can be fantastically satisfying. Fantastically satisfying. It's fast, it's easy, it's very satisfying. The theme is pretty good, right? Other than the not talking and the weird intern rule. Which are just gameplay mechanisms. Other than that, I mean, the theme's pretty good, right? I mean, it does feel like you're trying to work toward landing the plane, and all of the pieces of it kind of come together to make that to make you feel that. It's just a lot of fun. This is this is a game that I just keep thinking of every time I play it. Every time I played the physical copy, we've played 2 or 3 times because it's just like, okay, I got that first one, and I want another. I want another. So it's fun. It's fast. It's relatively easy rules wise, but some of the later scenarios can be really quite challenging. They come with 4 scenarios. There's green, yellow, red, and black. I've never played a black one. I've played red, but I've never won a red one. I've come close to winning a red one, and I play the yellows and greens all the time. And depending on which one it might be, win or lose, but either way, I have a great time. So those are some things that make the game pretty special. So where's the but? Well, there's not a lot here. If you couldn't tell, I really like this game. I think it might have been number 14 on my list, on my top 100, which did come as a surprise, but I've played it, 25 times in the last month and keep going at it. I mean, I just keep coming back to it. So where is the but? Well, there's not really much of one. I guess, if you don't like the theme, don't like cooperative games, it's not going to be for you. But the other one, and if you see me fiddling with the game, I guess my biggest, there goes everything on the floor. My biggest negative here is just your initial experience with it, and that is that you have to put together this board. It comes, with all these punchies in it and little stickers that you have to put on to make it into a double layered board. I mean, you only do it once, and it's not that hard. It's actually pretty clearly labeled. There we go. I just want to make sure I keep track of this die that has flown away here. Whoa. There we go. Sorry, I couldn't focus until I picked it up off the floor. So that's kind of a negative. And I guess it's not, look, I don't have much more than that, honestly. There is very little that I do not like about this game. So let's go on to my final rating. My final rating on this is a 10 out of 10. If you couldn't tell that, I really love this game. This is one of my favorite games of all time, and it is so new and yet so high. I mean, this is the game that I have played for the smallest period of time that has appeared highest on my list. It is one that I wholeheartedly recommend, and I've given it away as a gift to lots of people because it's just so much fun. Now, will it be for everyone? Of course not. If you hate cooperative games, well, sorry, right? I mean, this is a cooperative game, so probably not for you if you can't overcome that. If you always play with more than two, also this isn't for you. This is really just a two-player game. Now, I've seen online some sort of rules to make a solo version. I'm not sure how satisfying that would be because part of the fun of the game is that unspoken communication, and unspoken communication with rolling a random die is not all that much fun. So I would think that that's maybe not where the game would shine. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see. But if you are play with more than two, there's just no way to make this work. This isn't going to be a more than two-player game. And honestly, other than those sort of groups, I recommend this to everybody. It's also available on Board Game Arena, and while that's good because it means that you can go on and you can play it a time or two and see how you feel about it. It's the game itself is a little on the expensive side, but if you play it on Board Game Arena, I think that's free, or you can, as long as you play with somebody who has the premium account. You can have a great time with it. Try several of the scenarios. Oh, another thing, the first scenario, the sort of basic one, is pretty easy. I think you're supposed to win that one, and I've never not seen that happen. But that's really one that you're only supposed to play the one time, and then you can go on to sort of the real game where it gets more challenging. But anyway, go try it. I mean, this is a game that there's little that I do not love about it. And okay, on Wednesday Whimsy, I usually only talk about games that I'm excited about, just because I only do one a week. But this is a game I'm really excited about. It's a game that I can't think of many people who would not love this game. And for that reason, I absolutely recommend it. And that'll do it for us. I made it through the whole episode without singing that stupid "Flying the Flag" song from Eurovision, which is the one with the flight attendants. But hey, now I've mentioned it, so you can go check Scooch out. Anyway, but I really enjoy this game. I think you'll like it too. And that brings us to the end of our episode of Wednesday Whimsy. With that, I'm going to wish you safe travels, even on a plane, courage when you need it, and I hope you'll join me again next time for another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.